welcome everyone, especially Steve. I want to thank you for sharing your background with the folks. And can you tell us a little bit about your journey? I understand you were in firefighting and paramedicine, and you have made the jump into information security. That's a pretty big jump.
Yeah, it was an interesting journey. Yeah. So, quick brief background on my professional experience. At 18, I moved away, went to college, and I got my EMT certification. Roughly a year and a half after that, I became a paramedic, and I worked in one of the bigger cities near me for a number of years as a paramedic. And then I got hired back in my hometown as a firefighter. And then I did that for a number of years. But all the while I was doing that, I've always been a hobbyist with computers and hacking, and I always felt like I wanted to have a really good backup plan in case I got hurt or, public safety didn't work out for me. So I really anchored down on information security and cybersecurity, and I did a lot of home lab and, try Hack9, hack the box. All the while I was at the fire department. And at the same time, I was developing the drone program at the fire department while I was there, which has now grown into a citywide program for us. We use it for public safety as well as some utility purposes. And because of all that, I was able to make the jump over to IT and start refocusing our program from a cybersecurity standpoint, but also now having the authority and the autonomy to really push that drone program forward. And in the midst of all that, I had kind of just started to look into and research how to combine the two and how I can use one program here at work to kind of leverage and improve the efficiency of another program. And that's how we came up with adding pen testing techniques to commercially available drone platforms.
My understanding is that you went into IT, but now you're a deputy coordinator for the drone program, and you interface with the FAA, other industry leaders. You're influencing others. How have their ideas influenced you?
I guess the answer that comes to mind is very cohesively. This is it's a niche industry. It's a very emerging industry, and also in respects to working for a local government and trying to manage and mitigate the hurdles that come with governance and compliance, especially in today's day and age with drone technology. It really is just a big community think tank, and if you're involved and you're vocal, any idea is a good idea. It seems like. Because we're all just trying to manage the same hurdles of trying to push these technologies further responsibly, while also trying to I guess manage the oversight of governments and agencies that dictate how we can and when we get to use these things.
So if I understand correctly, as an IT organization with security embedded, as the ISO, you have a charter to do some penetration testing, and you might have some outlying buildings or some outlying operational centers that have maybe Wi-Fi connected capabilities, and that's what you're using the drones for, is you're pen testing through the drones?
Yeah. So basically, as far as practice goes, the idea is taking pre-existing implements. So we'll say like maybe a Hack RF1, and combining that or fixing that to a drone, and then using the drone as the vehicle to take already known to work exploits and move them to areas that we couldn't get to before. So you were right in saying that, with my job specifically, we wear a lot of hats here where I work, and that's just the way that it is. But yeah, as the ISO, it is ultimately my responsibility to make sure that our threat landscape is properly assessed. And knowing that I have the utility of an aerial craft at my disposal, you're absolutely, I mean, yeah, I can from one building to the next, I can try to do man in the middle with Wi-Fi attacks, or
Cool.
it's just, or surveillance and recon. You know, we do have some auxiliary buildings. You know, not everything is located right within City Hall. So there are buildings that have, you know, physical security vulnerabilities that aren't being assessed or can't be assessed without that, you know, 400-foot down or looking down perspective.
You're talking about things like maybe an outlying water treatment plant or something that's far away from the downtown area, but you're able to use the drones to actually get to the places that you need to get to.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, yes and no, right? Like there is the function of if something is far away and it makes it far more utilitarian and efficient to use the drone to get there. But at the same time, it's not just far away. Is how vertical is something, or how covert do we want to be in trying to make this this attack? Because that's part of the thing that drones offer in pen testing is, minus a little bit of noise, you can get pretty much anywhere without anyone noticing.
Okay. So let's continue then on to the course content. Have you added the pieces of the puzzle that help people actually understand how to use a drone? Like what's the primary objectives? What's the focus area of the course?
So yes, so the course is going to be broken down into, as it sits right now, 4 main content modules.
Okay.
And the first 2 are going to be your more introductory and your theory. That's where we're going to touch on, you know, really what is a drone, what's the technology inside of it, how do these things actually work, and then also brief on certain attacks, you know, man in the middle attacks, spoofing, RFID stuff, general recon, and then modules 3 and 4 will marry those together through defensive and offensive tactics. So we do take it iteratively through the course. Yes.
Is it hands-on and does it incorporate defensive and offensive?
It certainly can be hands-on. It's designed, the way that I have it is obviously not everybody can afford a drone right now. The technology is getting far more impressive and far more financially accessible day and day.
Okay.
But if you have a drone and you have the resources to do these things, it absolutely can be a hands-on course, and I would encourage it to be so.
Could you give us an idea of kind of the a baseline cost maybe for a drone, so people have an idea in the back of their head what's going to cost to get into something like that for their organization or their city or their county?
Yeah, I mean, I would, you know, there's a lot of controversy right now over DJI, especially here in the U.S. That might not be a big foreign issue.
Please spell out DJI.
DJI. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of controversy right now about it, and whether or not the data that those drones collect is secure, and whether or not it's secure to use in government. We use third-party software with our drones to where we've tried the best we can to eliminate DJI out of the equation. I completely forgot your question. I'm sorry. Where were we going?
Yeah, what is DJI for those that don't know?
DJI is a drone manufacturer. I would argue it is the #1 drone manufacturer right now for commercially available drones. That's your Mavics, your normal drones that you would expect to see.
$100, $150, $200,
well,
something in that.
I wanted to give you an accurate number. So the DJI Mini right now is roughly $750. That's brand new, and the price kind of goes up from there. There are other platforms that you can get much cheaper, but you sacrifice some of the higher end user friendly aspects.
You're talking about a professional drone, and I want to make sure that we provide an example of this is not something you fly in your backyard and you just play around with. You're talking about a professional penetration testing capability that you're adding to a professional IT shop.
Well, yes and no. Frankly, here at the city, yeah, we have what we would consider professional drones. Using DJI as the example, we have their higher end platforms. We have M30Ts, M350s are the models. These are your $17,000, $30,000 drones.
Yep.
Much more capable, higher payload capability, things like that. But and that's because it's available to me. That's what I use. But at the same time, if I wanted to attach an RFID skimming device, for instance, I could do that just as well with the $17,000 drone as I could the $1,000 DJI prosumer drone that's available. It's really and not to cut you off, but that's kind of what I'm hoping with the course to do is it's to bring it to everyone's hands and to use what you have about you and to get your brain thinking in a way of how can I take everything I have with me and make the most use out of it.
Great. We have a question in the chat area, but I wanted to finish up with the course background. What prerequisites or recommended skills do individuals have to have before they enroll in the course? What do they have to bring? A real heavy background in pen test? Do they have to have? You have a unique blend of backgrounds that cover a lot of range. What does the basic person need to bring to the class to be able to understand this stuff? Do you cover all of the theory, all of the ideas?
So curiosity, right? I mean, that's the number one answer is if you can come to this course open-minded and curious of how different things can be used to accomplish the same mission. That's really it. The course is going to be designed from beginner to expert, and you're going to get out of it what you can bring to it. If you have, advanced knowledge in Wi-Fi attacks, let's say, then you're going to hit the ground running and just be able to take the drone and the implement and make it work. If you don't have, a great understanding of, say, a Wi-Fi attack, then I would encourage any student, regardless of this course, to study on that if that's something that you think you're going to be using. So we're going to touch on it. I'm going to try to give primers on everything. I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but at the same time, I want to make sure that everyone who decides to take this course can walk away with something.
Perfect. Okay. Before we jump into just the importance of this, because there are advantages and disadvantages, of course. What the question in the chat? What techniques or strategies can be employed to detect and defend against advanced cyber attacks? I think this is from the other direction. Once someone has put up a drone and they're attacking, will that be looked at from a scenario perspective, or do you stay away from the defensive nature and talk only about the offensive in the course?
No. So one of the modules in the course actually is going to precede the offensive tactics and techniques module. We are going to go over defense. We're going to talk about detection and defensive strategies. Depending on where you are, that opens up a whole different door. Here in the US, as far as defending against a drone, our hands are pretty much tied at detection. We can't go hands-on versus a rogue drone or a threat. In other countries, that might not be the case. And I have technologies and things in the course that, again, at a global scale, these are the technologies that exist that are proving to be effective in defense. So yeah, we are going to touch on detection and true counter UAS defensive strategies as well.
There's kind of a cute question in the chat. What stage of testing do you just use a baseball bat?
I saw that and I wanted to touch on that. So that's when nothing works and I've officially given up on the project, that's when the baseball bat comes out. And I like to call it percussive maintenance, I think is the best term for it.
What I'm hearing is that sometimes this can be very frustrating, and I get it. I think your idea around bringing curiosity is absolutely the right way to approach anything in cybersecurity nowadays, because it is so expansive. It's wonderful to see this growth. So let's talk about the importance of penetration testing and drones and the combination of the two. From your perspective, can you talk about advantages and disadvantages, or maybe difficulties for incorporating the drone technology?
Yeah. So advantages, to just knock that out of the way, I think we've touched on it, are kind of obvious. It's the ability to reach places that you haven't been able to reach before. That's going to be the number one advantage. Either putting distance between you and your target, or if you're doing recon, it really does make a difference if you can get a 4K video of the entire building that you're looking to attack from any elevation that you choose. So the advantages are endless. It all depends on your use case and how you decide to use the technology. Disadvantages, I was thinking that over. There's two big ones that come to mind with drones and trying to do this. The first one's going to be battery life. It gets better every day. Every new model of drone that we buy, you add 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes worth of battery life to it. But they don't run forever, and eventually that battery is going to die and it's going to come down. And then in a similar breath, but of its own right, is payload capacity. If you're putting a Hack RF1 to a drone, with the device, the battery, maybe a secondary power supply, if you aren't electrically savvy enough to piece into the actual battery on the drone, it all adds up. And a lot of these drones have a 1-2 pound payload capacity, so you can eat that up pretty quick, which then starts to decrease your battery life and your flight capabilities if you're overweight. So you have to be creative in prioritizing what payloads you want to attach to that drone and how far you need to get it.
Perfect. Now, I have to ask this, and it looks like Zafar Khan is thinking along the same lines. From an offensive and defensive perspective, when we put up a drone, do we know everything about the internals of that drone? And can someone take over the firmware? Can someone penetrate your drone to do their own nefarious stuff? I mean, what measures can be done to actually secure the drone before you put it in the air?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, the ability for a drone itself to get hacked exists, and I don't want to go too deep into it, because that is yep. One of the topics in the defensive module.
Perfect.
Is something called a cyber takeover. That is a known technology. That is a known tactic that the military and foreign nation states use to defend against drones, where basically the connection between the original controller and drone is hijacked, and now authority has been given to the attacker in that instance. So yeah, it does exist.
So how do you emphasize some kind of mechanism to ensure the participants in the class adhere to ethical guidelines, ethical standards? Because obviously that's an area that's pretty sensitive.
Yeah. I noticed that on PenTest magazine, they're going to do some vetting with emails to make sure that everybody who's taking it is accounted for. There are certainly going to be sensitive topics that are discussed. Unfortunately, ethics are a difficult thing when it comes to pen testing, I've found. It's really, I hate to keep using the word perspective, but it's all perspective. If depending on who your target is and whether or not they know what you're doing determines whether or not the operation you're doing is ethical. You could be doing the same act and the only difference is if somebody knows or doesn't. You know, I'm hoping that with this course, people more so see the utility and take their curiosity and come up with ways that they can use this to the benefit of mankind. But
thumbs up.
Yeah, we have to. I understand that maybe not everybody's going to do that, but I also understand that what I'm giving isn't unknown to bad actors as well. So
exactly. For those that are joining right now, I'm honored to welcome Steve Coffey. He's a cybersecurity professional with a diverse background spanning from firefighting, paramedicine, into information security leadership. He's got over a decade of experience as a firefighter and a paramedic, and he transitioned into IT leveraging his self-initiated learning from a very early age. He got his certifications and hands-on experience to make the switch, and he basically implemented his drone program. Now he's a leader with a lot of ties and talks to bodies like the FAA, and he collaborates with industry leaders to propel his program's growth and efficiency, efficacy. What we'd like to do is kind of turn this into a question around industry, application, and impacts. What do you see penetration testing with drones doing as far as impacting various industries beyond public safety, say?
I think as the technology becomes more accessible and hopefully more cybersecurity professionals start to see the utility of it, hopefully we're gonna see a larger community of pen testing professionals using drones. And I can't speak for every nation out there, but here at home in the U.S., we certainly seem to be a reactive government, and I think really what's going to come down the line is as more professionals start to perform these operations, we're going to see more adversarial entities performing these operations, and then secondary to that, we're going to see the government come up with new regulations, create new mandates, find new grant funding for startups to come up with new defensive strategies, and keep that wheel turning. And I know with your experience in the military, you can probably attest to this too, but generally we're about 10 years behind what we see, in country. And so this type of stuff has been happening in the Middle East, and we're seeing it a lot now with the Israel-Ukraine conflict. Drones are becoming a household offensive tool. And I think the U.S. government's really going to have to come together on that and help support some of these startup companies that are creating the next greatest technology to help defend and or use these technologies.
I think you're spot on. There's a double-edged sword there where the offensive capability and the defensive capability should be thought about. In the United States, at least, there's an FBI and industry collaborative called InfraGuard, and they talk about critical infrastructure all the time. I would encourage anyone in the United States, at least, to talk to InfraGuard and talk about critical infrastructure sectors. I think your ideas around this would be beneficial to talk to things like how could we improve security practices in our defenses with things like utilities or transportation, buses, any kind of transportation, trucking, trains. What do you see there for drones?
Endless opportunity, truthfully. With my position working for a local municipality in charge of cybersecurity, we and most municipalities do have a substantial amount of critical infrastructure. We have water treatment, we have wastewater, we have hospitals and plants and industry that everybody has to deal with. So it's interesting that I get to look at critical infrastructure very intimately, and knowing that there is some particular critical infrastructure that's a fan favorite of APT 31 right now. I think it's only going to continue to expand. And as drones become more autonomous and the capabilities within them become higher, things like having constant surveillance or people tracking or commodity movement, if we're talking about transportation, those types of things mixed with machine learning can do a lot. And I told myself before this, I didn't want to be another person to just talk about AI, but AI is going to be the game changer. The flight is going to become autonomous, and the ability for drones to secondarily or tertiarily process that data that comes through, I think is going to change the world as far as physical security in those sectors. Cybersecurity is going to be its own battle, but I think physical security is really where these drones are going to take off in some critical infrastructure areas.
There's a lot of opportunity there. One of the things I'd like to go back to for a second is some folks may be very, very new to the penetration testing world. Would you tell us what APT 31 is?
Yeah, so that's going to be as far as we know, a Chinese nation state threat actor.
Okay.
Whether or not they are on the payroll for the Chinese government, or if they do any particular things to help further the campaign of the Chinese government, we don't know. But they are a well-known adversarial group that is particularly interested right now in American critical infrastructure.
Okay. A chat question popped in concerning drone combined with SCADA testing. SCADA has its own challenges, certainly. What's your thought on Wi-Fi connected SCADA? To me, that would be a no-no.
Yeah, I mean, to me, you're absolutely right. That's a hard no. And frankly, I don't even like just extranet connected SCADA at all. If it can be on an internet, and I mean, and the way that we do it basically is that the SCADA systems that we have get plugged into the internet to run updates.
Yep.
And then that is where they stop being connected to the internet.
Yep.
Physically.
Just connect them. Yep.
So yeah, to answer this person's question, yeah, they could absolutely cause an immense amount of damage and wreak havoc, but God help the person that left the SCADA connected to the internet to begin with.
Let's go to the next question in chat. It says, are there some drone companies that already are providing good secure channels between the drone and the remote? I mean, is there a known good actor, or are we subject to all of the same cybersecurity vulnerabilities that everybody else has, especially with the amount of IoT that must be on board?
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that. I don't know if there's any one company that makes it more secure or not. And realistically, I assume that everything is going to be compromised, especially IoT. It's compromised to begin with, and I can just do my best to watch out for indicators of that and manage if necessary. But yeah, I think the reality is it's 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi and RF, not overly secure connections, but they're cheap and they can get manufactured en masse, and that's what these companies are really looking to do.
Okay, so going to the course would help someone understand theory, understand the practical uses of drones in penetration testing, and getting out on the other side, the ability, if they have a drone, certainly to implement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then talk now, please, about what you see possible with future trends, and then we'll hit the challenges after that. What do you see in the future or advancements for the integration of drone technology and penetration testing?
Not to go back to it. This was the question I was going to try to avoid speaking to AI on, but in reality, this is the one that talks about AI. And I see one of the students, Venkata, had a question about drones GPT and drone large language models. That's what'll be coming. a lot of these drones already have autonomous flight and those AI characteristics built in. That's only going to get far more robust and more autonomous. But yeah, I think that AI and AI integration is going to be the future of drones. That Skynet fear
Okay.
type of thing. And I think it's really just like how we see AI now is, a couple of years ago, we had this explosion of AI. We had a large language model that almost anybody could interact with. And now a couple of years later, we have all these incredible niche GPTs that you can use for very, very specific tailored experiences. And I think that's what's going to happen with drones. Photo processing, facial recognition, location tracking, cell phone or communication device identification, things like that. That as this drone flies can just passively scrape data and war drive your entire campaign, basically.
Wow. Okay. Would you be planning to adapt any of the AI or LLM to the course curriculum later on as a later phase, so that people could start to understand and engage more with these evolving technologies?
Yeah, I obviously the course it comes out in early June, so we have a little bit of time left. But I'm very hopeful to stay involved and keep an eye on emerging trends and technology, and revisit the course as necessary, and work with PenTest Magazine to get the updates in there, because I do think, and I think it would be important to keep that updated, because we all know. I mean, even by the end of this webinar, something in technology is going to have shifted and completely made something else obsolete. So as best as I can, I'm going to try and keep the info up to date.
Well, in addition to the course, let's shift gears a little bit and say that, you have to bring an interest, but what about community engagement? How do we get more people, a broader section of perhaps the total community? How do we get them engaged with learning the penetration testing with drones besides the course? How do we keep talking about this more and more?
Well, I think it's going to come. I hope that it's going to come as just more and more people get involved with this particular niche brand of cybersecurity. I plan on staying involved. I would like to. This course was really an opportunity for me, and a novel one at that, to create a course and a community and a knowledge base around this topic. And I'm really hoping to pivot this opportunity to try and create a community, maybe a Discord, where people can come together and share knowledge and share experiences, and make that community of just information sharing with each other, and so we can all push each other forward.
I think that's a testament to your pursuit of excellence and innovation in this field, and I want to thank you for the course. What about individuals that are interested in exploring the intersection of drone technology and penetration testing? Are there perhaps any specific, like you said, Discord, any specific forums or communities or resources that you might recommend to the folks who are just getting into this, just breaking into this? What would you say to them?
Off the top of my head, I don't have any particular websites or links to forums specifically where you can go. But yeah, when I got into this, it was a lot of Reddit. It was 4chan. It was Discord. It's not available to everybody, but last year was my first year at DEF CON. And I can't recommend that conference if you can attend more. I mean, that going to DEF CON allowed me to network and meet like-minded people and people you would never expect to meet. And just think tank, free of charge, stress-free, and just be creative and think. And that's, yeah. I think just getting yourself in any community is going to be the benefit, because the more people that you can sit and talk to and have your ideas heard and listen to ideas and see what you can learn from other people, that's no matter what, that's it. And I think that just fosters that curious mind we all need as cyber professionals.
So it's not just about taking a course. You have to take the course and then get into a community, or can you be in a community and go to the course afterwards?
I think either or. I mean, really, this is an interest course. This isn't reinventing the wheel. This isn't going to be, groundbreaking news and technology. But like I had said earlier, is my biggest goal is to create is more mental than anything. It's trying to shape the way that cyber professionals use available technologies together. So either way.
I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think this is a groundbreaking course aimed at empowering the penetration tester that already does, pen test on the local network to add more value to their arsenal. I think you are doing something groundbreaking, and I salute you for that. That's amazing.
Well, thank you, Tim. I appreciate that.
I think the other question I have is, engagement is good. How do you get that? I mean, some people in the community write a lot of code. They're a little shy. How do you get people to engage with industry stakeholders to get those ideas back and forth?
The only way I can answer that, I guess, is to speak to my own experience. I worked professions that forced me to be in a public eye, that forced me to public speak and make decisions under stress. And not everybody gets opportunities to really refine those skills. But what I found when I made the switch to IT, and you have that imposter syndrome almost, and and at heart, I'm an introvert, and I would rather sit in my home office with my many computers and many screens, and I would be just fine. But I think having a good knowledge base, the more confident and more curious you are about a topic, I think that pulls the extrovert out of anybody. If you can get within it, if you can find a community, and maybe you're quiet for a little bit, but eventually that one question or that one conversation is going to happen where you really get to spill your heart and all of that knowledge that we find ourselves holding within our own heads. That was the magic. And that was DEF CON for me. That was really the point of that. Was I didn't have a community. I didn't have a lot of people that I could talk to about this stuff. And then you go someplace, you meet some people, and it helps when you have a couple of drinks in you. But next thing you know, it's 3:00 in the morning and you're all sitting around talking about, how could you put a long range RFID skimmer onto a drone, and what's your effective range for pulling creds? And then you try it, and that's
very, very cool. Very cool. I'm going to, I know we have to wrap up pretty quick here, but I want to mention Venkata has asked about the Ukrainian war drones, the Israeli war. I want to make sure that everybody understands that there is a war fighting capability for a drone, but I want to make sure that we're not pinging on wars right now. That we're talking about a class that offers you the theory and the techniques to actually add drones to your penetration testing. I think that's the most important part. Guillaume has asked a very interesting question. What techniques are available to conceal a drone during flight visually? I don't know that there is a solution to hide your drone, especially if it's in a package that's
I mean, frankly, there really is. So I'll use our Matrice M30T that's hanging from our ceiling. So I'm looking over at it. Okay. We'll use that as an example, because I think if we can conceal this, you can conceal a prosumer or consumer size drone. Most drones, well, at least in the US, if they're commercially available, have to have lights, just like any other aircraft. However, within the application itself, you have the ability to terminate those lights. And so it's illegal. You technically can't do it, but for some reason they make the button right there. So you can hit that button and then you go dark. And we have hypothetically found that at night that really works. You have a carbon fiber black drone with no lights on in the cover at night, you're not seeing it. The the biggest issue we find in concealing a drone is the sound, and the prop wash that comes off. And we've, with my personal drones, with the city's drones, because even at a city municipal level, we don't want to create noise pollution if we don't have to. And we fly these things a lot. So we found low noise, low prop wash props that kind of mitigate that. But, nighttime is the way to conceal drones.
Gotcha. Really... Good answer. And thank you very much, Steve, for being here and for giving us this great introduction to your class and the overview of the industry.